Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. As you will have seen in the title of the video, we will be talking about mealworms and buffalo worms today. Now, these are both an excellent source of protein for birds or reptiles or even fish. And in my case, I give mealworms to my turtles, which I will show you later in this video. And both of them I give to my birds, especially when they have young to rear. Some birds really require it, like the African waxbills or some, for example. But in general, all birds really like both of them. Now I will be showing how you can breed these yourself. This is especially nice to know or to be able to do when you have large quantities to feed. For example, for me in high breeding season, I go through, I think, a liter a month of the mealworms, sometimes even a liter in 2 weeks. And from the buffalo worms, I go through 2 to 3 liters per month. So that's why it would be very convenient to be able to breed them myself. Now, first I will show you a little bit more about both of these animals. Now, the mealworms, as you see here, those are actually the larvae of a beetle. Now, this is a beetle like that, as you can see. So this is a beetle. And its life stage goes as follows. So the beetle lays eggs, then a worm comes out, well, actually a larvae, and then they become a pup. Well, yeah, you see it. And then they become a beetle again. And this whole life cycle takes about 2 to 2.5 months. Now, as you can see here, or not because they went in hiding, I guess. The other ones, the buffalo worms, are a lot smaller. To put one in comparison, I will show them next to each other. The smaller one is a buffalo worm, the larger one is a mealworm. Now, you also see next to it here, that's a pup of the buffalo worm, and also the beetles are a lot smaller. Now I will put this one back. Now for here's one. Now those beetles are in both cases between brown and black, as you can see here. Now you notice I haven't closed the top of these boxes because they rarely will fly away. Now they can fly, but they will rarely do it. Now the life cycle of the buffalo worm takes a little bit longer, but it's about the same, and also breeding them is about the same. Now, how do I do it? Or I will be doing it in these big boxes, which are 60 by 30 centimeters and 10 centimeters high. Now, I have 10 boxes, I have 2 lids. Now the breeding boxes, they will look like this box. Now I've created this one to test it, and also if the gauze is strong enough for the worms not to eat through it. So I will not recommend to use plastic gauze, but rather steel or something like that, because otherwise the worms or the beetles will eat through it, and that's not wanted. Now, why with gauze? Well, the beetles here, they will lay their eggs on top of the gauze, and a few will fall through, but mostly when the eggs hatch and the worms come out, they will fall through this gauze and enter into a big container underneath, which I tested with this. They will fall in here. And now every other few weeks or month or so, or time you choose, I will be doing it every month for starters, maybe in a later stage every 2 weeks, I will put a new container under the beetle cage. Now, how will I construct beetle cages? So, I will make in a box like this. The bottom will go out of it, a big square. Fly gauze will be applied to it, and the beetles will be here with their food. Now, what do I give them for food? Just chicken meal and occasionally vegetables like apple. No, apple is fruit, of course, but cucumber, something like that. Just not too much, because if it gets too moist, you can get fungus, and it's something you don't want to. But you can also use other food sources, because especially the buffalo worms, they will just eat about anything from greens to meat. They will eat anything. But now, so the bottom will be out of it, and then the worms will enter there. Now, let's get started to it. So this is what we got. Square out of the bottom and a square out of the lid. Now we'll do the other. I will also, in my 8 other boxes, which will be the larvae boxes, I will cut out a few of these holes and also apply fly gauze to it, so they have oxygen and a little bit of an air current, because otherwise they would suffocate, and that's of course something you do not want. Now, and then we will apply the gauze using silicone, and then let it dry for a few hours, maybe a day. And when that's done, we'll be putting the worms in. So let's get to work. So now all the holes are cut. I've did 2 boxes with the bottom out and the lids. So the lids for oxygen for the buffalo worms and mealworms and the beetles, and the bottom of course for the larvae to fall through. We also have in all the other boxes holes on both sides like this to provide them for oxygen. Now we will be adding some fly mesh to it, some gauze. Now I will just draw on it for the right measurement, just about 2 centimeters or an inch or so overlap on all sides. Then we will cut it, and then we will the lines. So now we'll cut it just using scissors, and then we will attach it to the boxes using silicone. Now this is a steel mesh. It's one I recycled from a fly door or mosquito door or something like that. And why steel? Because if it's plastic, the beetles or worms can bite through it, and that's of course something you do not want. Just some dirt. Now I'm just using transparent silicone, but any silicone will do. What I do recommend is to use one that is antifungal. So I'm using one like that. It's always good to use one like that in my bird cages. where needed, I also did that in my terraria too, because you never know, and better safe than sorry, and it's not that the price makes that big of a difference. And you put the screen mesh just on top of it. See that it's nice leveled out, and you push it into the silicone. Make sure there are no gaps between it, because the worms will find it. And just spread it out through the wire. It's a bit hard to put tension on the wire like this, but I'm trying to do it as best as I can so that it's a little bit straight and not all wobbly. Any excess I will remove later on when it's dry, so I do not move the wire once it's positioned right. And I will remove my gloves for a second. So I can show you. So this is what we got now. We have the lid with the fly mesh or fly gauze. Then we have the box for the beetles, this is the top view and the bottom view. And then we have the boxes, the fly mesh on the sides, on both sides. So they have air and oxygen and they do not suffocate. And these boxes are for capturing the eggs and mostly the larvae or the worms. Now, you might notice that I said I would make 4 each of these boxes. Well, these are the first 3. I have 3 from another tower of boxes, so to speak, like this one. And I already had 2 boxes to keep my few, actually, of my worms, to keep in the worms and already create beetles. Now, those are in here. Now, what will we do? To get a good image, I will use this box here. We'll put this one with the fly gauze on top. And you also see I have a lot of cardboard round pieces. It's like from kitchen paper or toilet paper or whatever. Just you can also use like the boxes for eggs or something where the beetles can hide and where they can lay their eggs, because they like a place to lay their eggs. Also for the worms to go in a hiding place to form a pupae stage. That's better than just an empty box. It might just be feeding animals, but we still want them to have their best lives. Now, what will we do for food? I just use excess chicken mesh I have. Oh, and apparently there's a hole in the bottom of this. So I use the chicken mesh. I will put this in another sack shortly, or in a box. And what also, some fruit or vegetables like apple, you can also use cucumber, carrots, something like that, to give them some moisture and some more vitamins. And then it's time to put the worms in and the beetles. Maybe also important to mention that I did wash out all the boxes before I'm doing this now. So after cutting all the holes and applying the gauze with silicone, I washed them all to make sure there's no chemical residue. Now we just spread them out a little bit. Some food will fall through, but that's not a problem. I do see already some beetles in here, not that much. In the mealworm colony I have a lot more, but I do see already a start. I think there, if I had to guess from the buffalo worms, there are about 20-30 beetles in here already that I see. So that's enough to get them started, but there are like, I think, few hundred, maybe 1,000 worms in here, so it's a good start to start a colony. And it's a bit of trial and error to see how much beetles I need to produce a certain amount of worms, but we'll see about that, and I will give an update about that. And but now these are ready. Now I put the lid on top of it. Why is the lid important? Well, I do not want flies to lay their eggs in there, because I've had that once, and that's really not something you want to have happen. Now, the mealworms, just the same. Put in some pieces of apple. Putting in this chicken mesh. Now, and I think I've said it before, but the important thing is with this gauze, the beetles will lay their eggs not, they will not lay it on the mesh itself, they will like to lay it somewhere in a hidden place, that's why the cardboard, but also the eggs mostly will not fall through the mesh, but the larvae, when they hatch, they will. And now I don't think if you'll be able to see it, but if I tap this, you see a lot of pupae and beetles fall out or start climbing on there. And if you see it, I do not know if you can really see it, but I will try to tap it a bit harder, and I hope it's visible on camera. There really fell out like 30-40 beetles out of here. And all those beetles are, like I said, between a dark brown and a light brown color. I do not think that's gender related, or I've never read it could be, but you never know. Yeah. Just scared myself a little bit. Also, I have even like a partially white one in here. See, this one's partially white. Special. And well, like I said, they might be food animals, but they're still animals, and I like them, and they're exciting because there's such use of them. Even people eat those mealworms, excuse me, and they're even used in laboratories to study all kinds of stuff. Now the rest in here. Alright, now to start, we do have a lot bigger population of beetles from the mealworms. So I think they will start breeding a lot faster and a lot better. But I think the buffaloes just need a little bit more time. They also need a little bit more heat, but since the weather is very good here in Northern Europe, Western Northern Europe, I think that will be okay. Now, one more thing to keep in mind is the buffalo worms need more heat in winter. I'll show this while talking, maybe it's a more interesting way. The mealworms do not necessarily need heat, because if you want to breed them they need some heat, but they can, well, they can take some colder weather. I just keep them in like where I keep my bicycles, which is like a tiny garage. And for the mealworms that's no problem, but for the buffalo worms, when it freezes, well, they die. These can handle it, but the buffalo worms don't. So that's something to keep in mind. But they will, the mealworms will go like dormant. So you won't be producing much when it's that cold. But anyway, then that's something to keep in mind. Now, there's something interesting, like a yellow one. Don't know if it's normal, but there is a yellow beetle in there. Very interesting, I think. Well, I like I like mutations in birds and reptiles, but if I see them in beetles, well, it's just interesting. Mutations are a part of nature, and it really interests me, so that's why I get excited about it. Now, I will put these into use in their place, and I will give an update in a few weeks or a month or so to see if we got the... see we don't lose a beetle, to see if we have produced some, and let you know that. So as promised, I'm now showing a little feeding clip, feeding some mealworms to my sideneck turtles, my African sidenecks. And these aren't yet self-bred mealworms, but still, soon they will get them. And I would like to thank you all for watching this video. Leave a comment down below and like this video if you liked it, of course. And consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. I hope I explained everything clear in how to construct your own meal and buffalo worm farm. And we'll end this video with a little feeding of the turtles.